This lecture will cover a second example on research compilation. Our subject, 5720 Ford Road, Ackworth, Georgia, Cobb County. Again, this is a random parcel chosen from the public records. No attempt has been made to contact or embarrass these people. This is information that can be found by anyone with no special privileges, etc. But this is a good example. So let's say that your assignment simply comes as 5720 Ford Road, Ackworth, Georgia. You've been asked to survey that. We'll get you more information later, but it's a hurry, it's a favor, it's somebody you want to take care of. You got to go start surveying on it, and that's all you know is the street address. Well, you go to the Cobb County Clerk's or Assessor's page, and you type in that address. This is what you find. Perhaps if you're prudent, you'll go back to your contact and say, hey, is this supposed to be 7 acres? Is Gary and Shonda Brooks the current owner? Yes, that's right. You're on the right property, Joe. Kick it. So here's what we know. Now, not all QPublic or GIS platforms are the same, but we're sticking with Cobb County, and here you can turn the land lot layer on, and it'll tell you right here you're in Land District 20, Land Lot 231. This blue line comes on and off with that layer, so that's a land lot line approximate per where they think it is. And below that line is Land Lot District, or Land District 20, so we're in the same district, Land Lot 264. So off the bat, we know, okay, we're in the vicinity of Mars Hill Road. We're in Land Lots 231 and 264. So, yes, we confirm that as we go through the process. This is what it will look like after we've gone through the process. So, using the same clues as from example 1, which we will not be redundant and repeat, our subject property has no deed reference listed in the tax records. Again, that's not shocking. That's not a huge news flash. So we go to search the subject, and the subject is always what we're surveying. You have the subject and the adjoiners, northern adjoiner, eastern adjoiner. You may have 2 properties adjoining on the east, so you have an adjoiner east and an adjoiner east north and an adjoiner east south. It's really however you want to call it. You could even call them each adjoiner A, B, C, D, E, F, and then make a table. There is no right or wrong format. What is right or wrong is gaining adequate information about the adjacent properties and compiling it for use in a survey. That's what we're doing here. So this is what we look for in the assignment for this module. So if you'll follow this guideline, the first one gave you the primer. It was a very simple one. It's a subdivision lot. This example is a little bit more in depth. It is just a parcel of land out in the country, or at least as out in the country as you can get in West Cobb. So there is no deed reference. My nomenclature, NDR, no deed reference. You can call it whatever you want to. You can write it out, but you need to make a clue to come back to and have a methodical thought process that, hey, in the assessor's page, there is no deed reference for this parcel. So what do? We start going name search on our subject, on our name, and I did that. And I started finding where he was the grantee of 3 different pieces over 3 different times. I found the first 2, and then I think the 3rd one came in when he got a quitclaim deed for all of them combined right here. So I put an asterisk by it because that's the one I want to use. I do have this other information if I want it, but this is the western and the eastern part, and then the middle came along later. Now the title history, who granted what, who released what, that's very important for title attorneys, title insurance policies, and banks and lenders, and for the individuals. It's not all that important for surveyors, so we don't dig into that too much. Use the normal course of events. Wow, we have 2 others that don't have deed references. We have Thelma Kreider up here. No deed reference. We did come along in the grantee search and find a deed that describes hers. Incidentally, if you want to duplicate this effort, you'll find where she has currently or previously owned quite a bit of property over here. Our northern adjoiner, Cobb County Board of Education, son of a gun, another one with no deed reference. This is unusual. but it makes for a good example. So we searched them by grantee. As you might imagine, there are a lot of properties that the Cobb County Board of Education has been the grantee on. So how did we glean through that? I won't bore you with the details, but we went through and looked at the ones in Land Lot 231 until we found Shazam. Here it is. And how did we know? We looked at it. Not just because it was in Land Lot 231. Notice they have acquired several pieces of property in Land Lot 231. We had to look at the description, make a mental read. Okay, this is over on the east side of Mars Hill Road. This is not us. They acquired just this little section right here from our previous owner. As you might imagine, this was all one tract at one time, even before or after it came out of being land lots and all. This was one piece of property, which is important to know. And then this parcel on the east is Cobb County Board of Education also, but it gave us a deed book and page. Very happy for that. So, you know, Cobb County Board of Education owns several parcels, one big school compound or campus. So this is what we're looking at the end, or what we're looking for in the end. And in the meantime, this is not part of your assignment, but this is part of what you need to go through to get there. So this is just where we entered Gary R. Brooks. Notice he has mortgages, releases, cancellations, more security deeds. There was an assignment where the mortgage was conveyed to somebody else. What am I looking for? Wow. Warranty deed. Poof. Started looking at all these. That's where I found the others that were not applicable. Warranty deeds, what I was looking for. Although, you know, when stumped, you may have to dig deeper and look at other of these documents, but this is the one that we needed, come to find out after we looked at it. So, same thing. Thelma Ruth Crider, she got it from Effie Ford. Didn't know that, didn't know if we need to know that. Got us a little clue right here. There's a plat recorded, Plat Book 64, page 134. We got it, took a look at it. This is the warranty deed in 264. You'll notice she has a few quick claim deeds. As is not unusual, this lady wound up inheriting the property. She got it along with her husband, and they financed it. That's what all this is. This is not the chain of title. Notice that these are not in chronological order, or it might be close to a chain of title. But this is everything that pulled up in 231 and 264. Warranty deed 2561-476. When we looked at it, bingo, joined us right where we wanted to. We had to do the plot legal description exercise to find that. So here is the subject property legal description that we found by name search. I want to point out that at this time, the property, when he was conveyed, it was 3 different tax parcels, just like what I had concluded from our initial deed research. Here's the legal description. Is this us? Oh my gosh. Is this our property? It probably is. 231-264. Big old clear right here, street address, 5720 Ford Road. Bingo, that was what our buddy the banker wants us to go survey. So we have found 5720 Ford Road. Now, what are we surveying? Plot the legal description. Same thing as what we've done before. We begin out here on Mars Hill Road. We come 580.61 feet along the north right-of-way of Ford Road, 50-foot right-of-way, 80-foot right-of-way. And lack of anything else, we come 40 from the center of Mars Hill, 25 from the center of Ford Road, have our point of commencement, measure along that right-of-way, and poof, there we are. So we've got calls around Ford Road, then we leave Ford Road and go back here to a pin. And then we come across to another pin. This 622.95 distance is the sum of the 3 calls where this was formally subdivided. Now, also going back to how it was formally subdivided, we do have calls for an iron pin at one of these bend points across the front of the road. Comes back this bearing and distance, back to the road. Bingo, this is us. We are so happy. Keep in mind, hopefully this will come to you, this is a pitfall to pick up on, 622.95. Just remember that. Here's Thelma Ruth Crider's description. This is where her and her husband got it. Again, we're not too concerned with the estate, who owns it now, is it an executorship, a trust. This is what we're interested in right down here, the legal description. Beginning at an iron pipe. Now, it's not drawn from the same place. It has no reference to Mars Hill Road. What are we going to do? Well, we have to figure out where it comes from and where it situates. Make sure that it fits. That's what we're doing. We're analyzing to make sure that they're contiguous, that there are no gores and overlaps, etc. So here's where we plotted her description. You'll find, of course, I wrote it over the bottom of the deed, but it begins at the landlocked corner. It goes north 569 up the landlocked line, then 42, and it comes across 434, and it comes down southeast 847. I see my face is cutting it off, but we've got 50 feet of frontage across Ford Road, and then we go back up 398 feet. Here this is northeast, should have been southwest. That was a reversed call, don't let it trip you up. 180 and 230 back to the point of beginning. So if we really want to know where Thelma's property is, or to know that we're truly adjoining, we're going to have to go off site. We might need to come down to this other side of her property line. She's got a flag lot, 50-foot flag lot coming up here next to ours. So in the field, we're going to want to be thinking about, okay, we're going to have that, to contend with. But it goes all the way back to the landlocked corner, which would not be bad to have since that landlocked line splits our property. But, if we can feel good about finding this pin, finding a pin down at the road, finding something on the other side of this flag, we can be assured we're on the correct property without resurveying her property. Understand, you don't have to resurvey every adjacent property to confirm your property. You have to do sufficient surveying and recover sufficient monuments to know that you're on the right property. In this case, if you find, I think if you found this pin right here, and probably the one down here at the road, besides our corner, and probably come up here to find this one, that's going to be sufficient to know that you've got her property line nailed down and you don't have any gores and overlaps. Again, by name search, this is where we found the Cobb Board of Education. I want to point out, this also begins at the landlocked corner, and then it comes up and around to the true point of beginning. So in my terms, this is the commencement point, and this is the point of beginning. And how do we know that it adjoins us? Well, we plot the legal description. Here we go. It starts at that same legal description or same landlocked corner that Thelma's does. Comes up the same, distance, then the 42-foot call. And here it's fantastic. It's telling us what they found, a 1 3/4 inch open top. Then we come over 436.9, it finds a 1 inch open top. That's great. We know this is Thelma's northeast corner that we're going to want to go locate anyway, so that we know that we got her line lined up. It's also going to help us know that we are matching up to the Board of Education's property. Because if some of you do this, and just come out here and you locate a pin here and a pin there, and you say, hey, I found 2 pins, they're 619 feet apart, let's go on, let's get to the next job. This is thick, there's briars, I saw a hornet, there might be a hornet's nest around here, let's get out of here. No. You got to get this. You got to get the northeast and the northwest corner of the Board of Education tract in this case to know that you're actually in the right place, barring something else, because the description for our corners are simply IPS and IPS. If we know the surveyor who did it and we find caps with his or her seal or a registration number on them, that's a big clue that we found them. In that case, we might weigh how necessary is it to come up to get these in a hypothetical. But in this situation, we're fitting those original outside tract boundaries, and we need to know that we're on there. Now, let's look at this. Remember, our northern distance is 622.95. Now, here we are at 619. That's almost 4 feet of difference. Clue, bingo. Be watching for pitfalls. This is one of them. You may go out there and or your crew may go out there and say, hey, we found 2 shiny rebars. They're 619 feet apart. Mission accomplished, bingo, let's go. No, you might be stepping on a landmine there. Moving around the property in a northeast direction, we found the deed from the Cobb Board of Education's tax record. We take this at face value until we determine what we're doing, that we are joining, we are good. So we're going to plot this. Now this is blocked off on the PowerPoint. It'll be visible in the material, but Hans Alfred Trommel was the surveyor of this piece. He is who the monument is named for at the building at the Marietta campus. Was my professor in land surveys and route surveys, and is a mentor of mine. And there's another little tidbit that I'll tell you at the end. But so we're going to plot his legal description. His legal description comes back to this same point of beginning over here at the right-of-way intersection. Comes up Ford Road so far. Now I added the distances up because I'm trying to assemble this. 580.63. And then to know if we have any gores or overlaps adjacent to this piece of property, even though the school board owns all this and this pin may be gone, we need to come up and establish this corner, or find this corner, so we can establish this line and know that we're matching up to it. Now notice on all these, this is important, I've highlighted in yellow our subject property, and I'll put an asterisk on our subject property just as a matter of procedure. You can use any type of system or format that you're used to. The form, the color, the asterisks, those are all not necessary to be consistent with how I do it. It's just a system that I use to accomplish the goal, which is to understand how we fit and what we need to do. So, there's 580.63 from the road right of way. So also, while we're looking at the school board's deed to the east, we find something that's fairly common, not all the time, not half the time, but not uncommon to find. They also recorded permitted title exceptions. Now I'll go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. These are the same things that are in their title commitment as exceptions. These are the same things that are going to be in their title policy issued by the title insurance company after the closing as exceptions from coverage. So these are the things that they're putting out there, or we're on notice that these things may be out there and may affect the property. So some of this may even affect our property. These are things that the examining attorney has found affect the adjacent property to the east, these 9 things. Some of them may or may not affect us. I'll give you a clue. 1 or 2 of them probably do. The rest of them probably don't, but you never know. Particularly of interest, as we will discuss in a different lecture on right-of-ways, is wow, here is a 1948 right-of-way deed to Cobb County. That may be very valuable. Kudos to this attorney, because he went back more than 70 years to find this right-of-way deed. Found another one here. There are easements. You may have a big power line right-of-way crossing the property, and you're thinking, wow, I need to show the power line, but this is more than just a service line going to a house. It may be that when they ran this line right here in 1974, that the same person owned both properties and you just didn't know it, but this attorney has given you a clue with exception 5 to go pull this 1545 731 right-of-way deed or easement to the power company and see where it is. If James Hayes was one of our predecessors, we might find a lot of interest in this item number 8. I'll give you a clue, he was not in this case, but there's a lot of things. They'll even point out things, and because this is recorded and I was able to find it without any kind of special privilege or being part of the transaction, this all of a sudden becomes pretty interesting in that they're showing an easement and a right, they're referencing and accepting coverage or calling out a permitted title exception, an easement and a right-of-way that's probably the same as number 8, but they're calling it out based on an unrecorded ALTA survey from 2023. They've gave the job number and everything. So if you think that joins you, this is when you might reach out to this surveyor and say, hey, I found a reference to this plat right here, and it calls for some stuff that you've shown. Otherwise, friendly professional advice, don't bug every surveyor that's ever prepared a description that's part of your survey, adjacent or subject properties. Only do that when you need them. If there's a bust, if you're having a hard time tying in, if the legal description says to a point, to a point, to a point, and you don't know what you're looking for and you've hit a brick wall, that's a great time to reach out to that surveyor. Often, especially in older deeds, that legal description was probably written by a paralegal or a secretary, maybe a high school student that was told, here, do it this way. And there's a lot of information on the plat, ties, offsets to block foundation corners, monument descriptions. It's a 3/4 inch open top. It's a rock found at the base of a wooden fence. You know, these things often don't make it into the legal description. More clues found along the way. Our property is over here. This is a plat that was found by Land and District Search. Collier now owns this. This used to be Thelma Crider's. This is where that plat book 64 fits that I mentioned. I didn't pull a copy of it in, but you know, this surveyor really should have gone ahead and pointed out plat book 64, because that's what this deed calls for. Now, it doesn't adjoin our subject property, so I didn't pull this. I'm not focusing on this, but you know, if you're having a hard time finding the west side of our property over here, which is, you know, everyday occurrence, this plat gives you some clues as to where to find out. Again, my face is cutting it off. You can look in the material. He's showing a rebar right here. You can see where the power overhead electric lines come in. You can get oriented in the field by where the power pole is. Maybe find this pin. Then you know by Thelma's deed that we're 50 feet up. Wait a minute. Thelma's deed, this plat says that Gary Brooks and Shonda Brooks is the adjoiner. That's our subject property. What's going on? These are the sort of things that sadly happen all too often. The tax map at that time did not correctly show Thelma's 50-foot flag. It was not evident to the surveyor that Brooks was not the correct owner. So this recorded plat incorrectly shows the adjoining owner being our subject property. This is not anything that we need to alert anybody to or throw a panic whistle on, because we've done our job and we know that Thelma's got this 50-foot strip that separates us from this plat right here in plat book 277. But this is a good clue. You definitely want this on your tablet, in your field pack, you know, in your hand when you're out there surveying and looking for evidence, so that you know what's going on. Very possible that the person who lives in this house, Collier, or perhaps the tenant, if they're renting it out, might come out when you're over here surveying and say, "What are you doing? Property corner's not over here, it's over here." Yes, ma'am, aware of that. You know, there's a 50-foot strip in between. We're good. Or you might be over here looking for this one because ours is gone, or you can't find it, or haven't found it yet. What are you surveying? I'm surveying Brooks' property. Well, that's not Brooks' property. Brooks' property is 50 feet over. I know that. If you don't have this information, you look like a fool. You look like an uninformed, low-end technician that shouldn't even be on the job. So get all the information that might be helpful. You're going to wrap it up by looking back at this. Remember, our distances across the north buried. We're going to need to know to go shoot this pin, shoot this pin. What else are we going to need to do? We're going to need to go locate Mars Hill Road and Ford Road up to our property, besides in front of our property. We're probably going to want to go look for this pin. Might even look for this pin or this pin, just enough to help us figure out what's going on. And realize there's some differences, either this pin or this pin. You know, there's nearly 4 feet of difference between our call and the adjoiner's call on that line. Which one's right? We'll probably pick this up in boundary resolution and see how the story ends.